This is the 19th season of Bass Talk Live. BTL is presented by Bass Cat Boats, Strike King Lures, Aftco, Pro Guide Batteries, X-Zone Lures, Shoreline Boat and RV Repair, Spro, Gamakatsu, Big Bite Baits, The Bass Tank, Denali Rods, Beatdown Outdoors, and Sunline.
BTL coming at you.
Good morning and welcome to another exciting edition of BTL Bass Talk Live, where we are going to talk about bass fishing. And a good show lined up for today. Yesterday we talked with the number one angler in the world, and I think right now you can't really argue that. That would be the one and only Jacob Wheeler. Had some really interesting things to say. Was fairly candid about kind of the state of Major League Fishing and the Bass Pro Tour. If you haven't had a chance to watch that, I highly suggest going back and watching that show. Much appreciation for Jacob Wheeler. Didn't have to come on and do that. I thought it was interesting. A lot of people were like, oh, well, none of those guys talked until Boyd went on Ike Live. Dude, this was set up before it was even announced that Boyd was on Ike Live. This is 100% all Jacob Wheeler. So definitely worth a listen to. And he talked about some interesting things. And after he talked about that, there was some stuff that he said that he kind of looks for when it comes to a healthy organization, a healthy industry. And I was like, you know what? You're right. So I got another guest for today. I got Taylor Watkins on the show. We'll bring him in from Tennessee. What's up, Taylor? Thanks for jumping on.
What's up, Matt? Thanks for having me, man.
Wheeler said something, and I talked with you briefly before we went live today about how he wants to really focus on the top middle tier. Now he's talking of the BPT in this instance. So those 20 to, well, right now 50th place guys, which would be, I guess, if they cut to 50 in a couple years later. But he was talking about how if you could have those anglers make a good living, that would help the health of the organization, top to bottom, to where they wouldn't have to worry about finance. And it kind of thought, well, we've got that scenario going on in a number of the different leagues of what about those top middle guys in the opens and the MLF pro circuit? Like I was sitting around and I was like, man, I don't know any of those guys who are like not worried about their future and about the finances unless they're independently wealthy or have a massive title deal, which not very many of them have. In that case, typically a family friend that's not endemic. And you fall perfectly into that category. A 3-time NPFL winner, owner of Omega Custom Tackle in the industry, but then struggled in this year's opens. And I know we kind of talked back and forth on the water this year about it. And I was like, man, that would be a good talk to have today. So thanks for jumping on BTL.
Yeah, Matt. It's, we talked briefly and I'm sure we're going to dig into it, but dude, it is a hard time in bass fishing right now for a guy like myself, and a lot of decisions to be made in the next, 6, 8, 10, 12 months for sure. The next 12 months are going to be a big deciding factor on my future in bass fishing for sure.
You came out of the gates hot in the first couple of years of the NPFL, 3 wins, roughly $200,000 in earnings on $60,000 entry fee. So, I mean, when you fished the NPFL those first years, you actually made money, correct?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, the first 2 years at NPFL, I was, this is the way bass fishing is supposed to be. And that's kind of what I went into it like was, hey, I'm going to give this a go for a couple of years. And if it goes well, then we'll continue. If it don't, then we're done. And I thought, I thought if I get out there and prove myself and do well and all that, then, it was painted this picture of you get out there and you win and you'll get sponsors and, rainbows and butterflies. But dude, it is not that at all.
What did you, if any, kind of jump, did you experience any financial windfall after your wins? I mean, did you experience a lot more interest, or did you kind of sit back, or just kind of talk me through that and kind of the learning experience that you went through on how to capitalize on those wins? Because you won on the Kissimmee chain, Cumberland, which was a really cool tournament, and then Grand, correct?
Yep, that's right. And it was, I mean, every one of them was there was a jump, and a substantial jump. And people that knew who I was, the things I got to do, coming on your podcast, going on different ones, and get my name out there. And there was definitely a lot of interest. But, whenever it gets down to the financials of it, everybody wants to be a part and go and ride with you. And I did. I've got some great partners right now. But, that was it exactly what you said at the beginning of the show, was that non-endemic, that big non-endemic that goes on the center of the boat, that's the one that really keeps you going. I don't have that one. That one hasn't came along for me. So
it's interesting how that, like I said, materializes. For some guys, it seems so easy to get out, and you'll be casually chatting. Like, this is no joke. You'll be casually chatting with guys, and they're like, yeah, I mean, I got a 2-year $50K deal each year, and they're like in the opens. And then you see other guys who are grinding, and they're like, man, I have half of my entry fees covered. And they're both talented anglers, both at the same level. And I grapple with sometimes, like, is that luck? Is that marketing savvy? Is that right place, right time? I guess running in the different circles, but it's interesting, the disparity at the what I'll call the AAA level, even though it's basically it is a pay to play. I guess I still don't consider the invitationals a AAA level. There's so many guys that have made a career over on FLW Tour that kind of got thrown into that, and you have to qualify for that pro circuit through the Toyotas. I know it's not their top tier now, but you see so many of those guys, and there's such a disparity of guys who seem to have equal talent level when it comes to the sponsorship dollars and how different companies and people value their dollar. Like, for some, I feel like it's a tax write-off.
Oh, definitely 100%. I mean, the ones that are, I know several, and all of them, I know a lot of these guys, and I talk to a lot of them. It's just like you're saying, the ones that have got that non-endemic that really, I mean, yeah, it plays into the fishing industry, but that's not their main gig that they really care about. They either really like the guy that they're sponsoring, or it's a family friend, or they met them somehow and they go on a couple of fishing trips a year together, or they take some of their employees on some fishing trips, whatever it may be. That's the one that really pushes you over the top. All of the endemic guys, which win in tournaments and stuff, that's the ones that you get to talk to, because those are the ones that are paying attention, right? Those are the ones that are watching bass fishing. Like I got on with Yamamoto and Bill Lewis, the whole GSM team, and Baitworks, and Bass Boat Electronics. Bass Boat Electronics jumped on with me year 2, and they're great, but they've also got everybody else that is beating on that same door, so they want to help you out as much as they can, and they do. I mean, all of those companies help me out substantially, but there's only so much that they can do,
I thought you made an interesting decision going into 2023. You buy a tackle company, and then you go fish 9 opens. I mean, is that a fair assessment in a one sentence to wrap up how it went?
Yeah, essentially. Interesting decision is probably not the way that I would put it, but
go back to late 2022, early 23, because this is why I think you have an interesting perspective, because you experienced the NPFL, where I feel like the carrot is the cash, but then Bassmaster, the carrot is the Elite Series, fame, prestige, honor, glory, and an outside shot at the Classic. Talk about that decision, kind of go back and put yourself in, because you bought Omega in July of 2022, right?
That's right. Yeah.
What was the decision like? What was it that kind of intrigued you to make the jump to the opens, knowing you'd fish all 9, and knowing what the payout was?
Yeah. So there was a lot of factors went into my decision to fish the opens. Of course, number one, like you said, chasing that carrot. Like it's the Bassmaster Elite Series. That's where the dream is, the Bassmasters Classic. And I said from day one, whenever I fished the NPFL, that I was going to go fish the NPFL, establish myself, and then at the time you could fish 3 opens,
Right.
and qualify and go for the Classic, all the above. That was my plan the whole time. So I fished the first 2 years of NPFL. I got established. I got my feet under me. I felt like that I was pretty stable, and I was going to fish NPFL in 3 opens. And then, of course, everything changes just like it always does in bass fishing. And of course, we went to the all 9. Well, also on the other side of the coin, NPFL went to a $6,000 entry fee. They were going to Amistad for their first tournament. They were going to Texarkana for their second tournament. They were going to Eufaula, Oklahoma for their third tournament. Well, all 3 of those events right there are 15 hours for me, 14 hours, driving, and a $6,000 entry fee. And we were fishing for $50,000. And I had several sponsors that came to me and said, hey, we'd really like to help you out, but we want to see you at Bassmaster, and so that kind of went into the decision to go fish all 9. And then, of course, after I turned in deposits and did all of that stuff, they changed the first tournament at NPFL, and then, of course, changed the entry fees and the payout.
Oh, but then you were 7,200K in with a
I was already
commitment to your
deposits and everything, into the opens. So I was already locked in,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't have this endless flow of cash that I could just say, well, you know what, forget that. So, I was locked in for the opens for 2023. And I mean, I hate it. I love those guys over at the NPFL, I mean, it's the best trail that I've ever fished. And, but it is what it is. They made the decisions that they made. I made the decisions that I made. And, now here we are back in October of 2023, and we get to make another decision,
I'm calling the NPFL the cat league because they have 9 lives over there. Every time they think they're down, they land on their feet. It's happened every single year so far. They still have like 6 more lives. They'll be around forever. You cannot sink that ship.
That's just pure brute force over there. I was on the first year that all of that happened with the championship and everything. I was on the phone a lot and got to see a lot of the behind the scenes of how all of that went down and what happened for them to be able to land on their feet. And I mean they're not afraid to jump in the ring and fight. That's for sure. So,
what were your initial thoughts jumping to the opens you had not fished an open before. Like you fished 9 opens. You jumped to the first one, Lake Eufaula, 230 boats, 5 days of practice. I remember looking around at that one at Lake Eufaula in Alabama and going, my God, there's a lot of good anglers here who are putting their careers on the line for this. And then ironically, not a single one of those guys ended up finishing in the top 10. It was all 20 to 25-year-olds. And then the old elder statesman Milliken at 34. But is that an adjustment period for someone who's used to tournament fishing, has experienced a lot of winning, and then to go to that scene? Like, is that a little bit of a culture shock?
Oh, it was more than a culture shock. I mean, that second day of practice at Eufaula, I remember I was rooming with Trey Swindle, and I'm like, I come back and I said, dude, how do you even practice? Because I would get on a little deal and I would, run to an area and be like, look on my map, and I'd say, all right, I'm going to go check out this area. I'd run in there. Well, there'd be 10 boats in there. And I'm like, I don't know, why am I going to go in there and practice? There's 10 boats in there. If 10 of those guys get 3 bites, there's going to be for sure those 10 guys in there, and I spent some practice just riding around trying to find a place that there wasn't anybody. And, that first tournament was okay. I completely missed the deal. I completely missed what was going on, but, it was definitely a culture shock for me. especially on that first one. Now, second one, I kind of had a little better plan, but didn't execute it as well. So,
do you think that makes you a better angler, having to figure something out with that much pressure, that long of practice, and that big a field, or do you think it's just a survival of the luckiest and fittest?
We're going to find out here in about 3 months. I don't know the answer to that question. I definitely, towards the end of the year, changed the way that I fished. Now, don't get me wrong. My year's a little bit skewed because after the third tournament or so, I kind of felt like that I was out of the points. So I spent 5 tournaments trying to win, just strictly. Yep. So if I had a 10, 11, 12 pound day on day one, I went for, 17.
You're pulling out the big stick.
Yeah. I was doing everything that I could to catch a big bag. So my year is kind of skewed a little bit. There were some days in there that I probably could have sacrificed some things and maybe got a 50th place finish or something instead of a 70. But, I definitely think that those guys, especially the guys in the top 10, they were completely fishing a completely different way than I fish at all.
Is that a forward-facing sonar or just open, or just like what did you notice that was different? Specifically, I know, and I talked to you at Watts Bar, that's your home lake, right?
Yeah.
What did you notice there that the guys who are in the top, because a lot of those guys who made the top 9 also did well there. I mean, I know you were blown away at how some of these guys were fishing on that fishery that really well.
Yeah. So one of the things, and I knew it was going to happen, was day 1 and 2 of practice. I hadn't been on the lake in 30 days, and I got on the lake and I was shocked at how well they were biting. I was like, man, this is going to be better than I thought. And then, gosh, it just progressed so quickly. I went from getting 20 bites, 25 bites on day 1 to 15 to the last day of practice was like, dude, you were struggling to even get bit. And so the way that I like to fish, and one thing that I do a lot, is I'll just be running down the lake, and if I see something that looks good, I'll just pull in and hit it, and pick up 1 or 2 fish. Now, I'll have a pattern that I'm running or something like that, but I'm not afraid to listen to my gut and just be like, that looks good, and wheel in and hit it real quick. Well, that don't typically work in the opens. I noticed in the opens that one failure that I had was I might have a A, a B, and a C spot. Well, I might hit C first, and then cycle through instead of going straight to where I think the best money spot is. But after 5 days of practice in the opens, you better land on them from the giddy. I mean, from the time that they call your boat number out, you better be on them, because if you're not, it's over. It's done.
I've kind of noticed that too, and obviously I've been extremely consistent in the opens. This is one of the first years that I hadn't had a shot going into the last. This was the first year that I didn't have a shot going into the last tournament to make the elites, but I haven't figured out how to catch a big bag. That's been one of my struggles, especially on the big fish tournaments when I know how to. I haven't been able to land on the big fish. But the other thing that I've noticed during practice is if I have a really good spot or a great spot in practice, it will consistently get worse as the tournament and practice progresses. But if I have a spot with potential that is like a C or a D in practice, that spot may not get better, but it seems like a lot of the other areas and a lot of other fish come down because of how much splitting and how many other people find those fish and how many of those fish get caught, which makes that C or D spot come up to be a A- or a B spot by the time the tournament starts. So I've found I found a lot, like in practice, I'll find areas and be like, look around, look at the map. If it's obvious, and be like,
there's no point coming back.
Yeah, there's no point in coming back here. It's going to be, but that there's going to be a top 10 out of that area. but you also know that there's going to be 7 chumps watching him going, damn, that should have been me.
Yep.
So I've always hesitated to go to those spots and take, like I average 12.007 pounds a day and weighed in a bass every single tournament that I fished this year, or limit every single. But I never had a kicker, or, outside of 1,000 Islands where, that, but because I was scared to put myself in the position to zero by going to, and sometimes I just completely missed the boat, but by going to what I thought was the juice because I'm trying to survive.
Yeah. One that really opened my eyes was Wheeler. I knew where it was going to go down. The whole field knew where it was going to go down, but I tried to stay on those outskirts of, all right, it's going to go down right here, but let me try and stay out here on this outside edge and try and find something out here to myself a little bit. Whereas I should have just nosed up and got in there and just bulldogged around with everybody else. But that's just not me. That's not the way that I fish. That's not how I like to fish. And there was several tournaments that went down that way this year, and I think that was a demise to me because I like to get off to myself and kind of dabble around. I don't mind if there's 1 or 2 guys around, but if I'm looking at 10 or 15 boats, I struggle with it hard. I have a hard time with it.
I do as well. Talk about trying to run a tackle company too, because you made that, and then going into this year, that has to be hard. I know there's a number of anglers who have manage and run tackle companies and also fish at a high level, but to me, that would be extremely time consuming and hard to separate and focus on it. Like, do you find yourself spending time on the water working on Omega and time in Omega when you want to be on the water? And I mean, this is all still fairly new to you. I feel like that's an interesting dynamic.
I'm really still trying to find that balance, and I actually called and talked to Zach Burge, one of our anglers, last week about it, and it was like, man, I'm really struggling right now because, gosh, I just really want to take a break from it all, and I can't take a break from it because I got to continue with Omega, so it's great. But then again, it's, it's also got its downfalls where it's like, I can't just walk away from it and, take a break from bass fishing. Sometimes I like to go jump in the deer woods and deer hunt a little bit and leave it all back at the house. But I mean, you can't, you still got to respond to emails and work on this and work on that, so, it is cool. I mean, it's fun. I enjoy it, but, it's definitely a challenge, and I'm still trying to learn how to balance tournament bass fishing business owner, and I'm still an employee as well, so you throw that in there on top of it, man, it's a lot.
Any experience in the tackle industry before this?
No, other than casting it out there and catching a bass on it. That's about it.
What made you want to dive into this endeavor?
Man, I'd done well at NPFL, and I wanted to invest my money into something that I thought that I could grow. Like I was am trying to build my own sponsor, really, essentially. Like that was kind of the goal was, all right, let's buy Omega, let's grow it, let's get it, big or bigger, and that way possibly Omega could support my fishing addiction,
Because you're what, 30, 35, 36?
33.
33, okay. And Omega, to me, there was a picture here. I want to find this picture. So when I see this, I think this Omega's been around for a long time. It's been through a couple different owners. Are you the third? I think the third owner of Omega. But yeah. So if you can see that right there, the one that I'm circled, that logo right there to me is synonymous with Derek Remitz.
Yeah.
Back in the mid 2000s, the brand has been around for a long time. But I also know, dude, the jig company, the jig game is a tough game to make a living in. So you've actually done a lot of, and there's been a lot with Omega of kind of expanding it just outside of, hey, we do a football jig, a finesse jig, and a flipping jig.
Yeah, it's I mean, there's a lot more to it. Uh, spinner bait, buzz bait, several different things. But yeah, the jig game is definitely hard. I really thought that I was going to be able to, Omega's got a great footprint in that Midwest. That Lake of the Ozarks, around you, Oklahoma, all that, like, it's phenomenal. And I really thought that I was going to be able to bring Omega to East Tennessee. Well, everybody in East Tennessee makes their own jig, apparently. It's like we went to the East Tennessee fishing show. It's like, yeah, I got all that stuff in my garage. Yeah, I got all that stuff in my garage. I don't need any of that, And so East Tennessee's a tough sell, man. There's a bunch of good old boys down in their garage that are pumping out some jigs around here.
Is that Ozark Midwest area by far like the most, like if you were to pick a part of the country that uses just your standard jig the most, is it that Ozark, Oklahoma, Missouri area, like without a doubt?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we went and fished Lake of the Ozarks this year with the opens, and I used Omega stuff throughout the year on different lakes, but it was a swim jig or flipping jig or something like that. But dude, whenever I got to Lake of the Ozarks and I started practice, it really opened my eyes. I'm like, I got a football jig tied on, I got a structure jig tied on, I got a finesse jig tied on, I got, it's like, well, no wonder this is so good out here, because there's such a variety and they just eat it so well out there. Like you put it in a brush pile, it's getting bit. Or if you put it around the dock, it's getting bit. So no wonder that the brand really took off and is doing well there in that Midwest region.
And the other thing is, especially, like Grand, Table Rock, Lake of the Ozarks, if you're dragging a football head, you're either dragging it through nasty rock or brush, you're breaking off. $5 every 20 minutes. If you're properly fishing it around the docks, you're breaking off. New finesse jig every 20 minutes. I think I went through and I either finished 59th or 60th in that event. I went through $300 worth of jigs, like no joke, because I had to restock everything. So I know what I had. I bought $300 worth. I bought 2 different jigs. I bought finesse football jigs and some round balls. And that was it. $300 worth, $100 worth of trailers on it. And when I was done, I had 3 jigs left in my box. I made a brand new box with all the jigs, put them all in there. And it was, there's a lot of lead in Lake of the Ozarks. I'll tell you that. I wouldn't want to drink that water aside from all the partying that goes on there.
I did the same. What's sad is I don't want to Omega, and I had a couple of my, pro staff guys there and around. I'm like, hey, you got some Pro Megas laying around? I need some 3/8 Pro Megas. You got it? And they're like, what? You own the company? I'm like, yeah, I'm out. But
I was shocked. Like in practice, I started, and because a lot of the stuff you get stuck on, it doesn't matter whether you have a hook or not. Like it gets wedged or it gets wrapped around somewhere where you can't. So even though, you can take dikes and cut a hook off and be like, there's a bite, you think you wouldn't lose them when you're pitching over all the cables and stuff. Like I lost just as many on the last 3 days of practice without a hook as I did the 2 days of competition where I was putting it in all the godforsaken areas.
Definitely. I was the same way at Grand. I won on a jig at Grand, and I had a bag full of them. I probably had 30, and at the end I was scraping. Like I'm like, so yeah. Especially wherever you get on them, with the jig, you better have a pile of them.
Nationwide, if you had to pick one jig, head style, weight, and color that you would say is the most universal jig that sells, what are you going with? Like what do the stats show that's currently available? We'll do what sells, and then we'll do what you think. But I'm talking about, you have privy to stats. You have this company here to where you, like, if you just one universal jig that is probably the most popular from New York to California.
I'd say just a 1/2 ounce flipping jig. black and blue or green pumpkin, they're a close race.
Half-ounce green pumpkin. Would that be the Pro Mega Structure jig then?
No, half
Oh,
flip.
just the straight flipping jig.
Yep, half-ounce flipping jig.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought it would be.
Yeah.
Huh. What about you? What do you think?
Mine is a 5/8 Pro Mega, that structure jig, Pro Mega structure jig, and mine would be like TW Crawl or Chovy color.
What's the difference between the two?
Different head style and weight, and hook, and different hook on it as well.
Oh, the flipping jig's a round bend. This is what is the name of that style of hook? Do you call that? It's
I've had some people tell me it's O'Shaughnessy. I always just called it EWG style is what I've always called. But it's made more for casting. So that structure jig is made more it was built for brush piles at Lake of the Ozarks. Roger Fitzpatrick is actually one of the ones that really worked on that. I'm sure Derek Remmett's probably worked on it at that time too. But they were throwing football jigs and all those brush piles out there, and like you said, every 5 minutes they were breaking them off. So they came up with that Pro Mega structure jig, and kept that same hook in it, and it's made for casting, and fishing brush piles. And I know for a fact that there was 3 top 10s in the opens this year on that exact jig.
So this is that Pro Mega jig head right here. And by the way, BTL is not sponsored by Omega. I like talking jigs, and we just got done with some jig tournaments, and Taylor owns a jig company, so handy.
Yeah.
That's this jig head right here.
Yep.
Like with that kind of, it's almost like a banana shape on the head. Does that roll over instead of dig into the brush? You're saying that like what makes that jig better in brush than others?
It's the head design and the way that hook, like you're talking about right there. It's, whenever it comes up to a piece of brush, it'll actually, it'll come up and what happens is whenever a jig rolls over, that's when it gets hung. So wherever it flips and rolls over, that gets hung. So that head design actually stays flat, and it'll actually come up and over the branch that you're trying to come up over and keep it from getting hung. And then that hook, with that bend on it, where you've got, you're making a bomb cast out to a brush pile 60, 70 feet out there. Well, that hook is not a super heavy hook, but it's got plenty of, meatiness to it. You just kind of reel down and hit them, and it's got them, dude. It locks them up. I know I can't say everybody. Well, Jacob Bigelow had 1 or 2 top 10s off of it this year. That exact jig, the 5/8 Pro Mega. His favorite color is Missouri Crawl, and then there was like 2 or 3 others too.
Mm-hmm. But so this is what you're talking about. So this is the flipping jig that I pulled up. So meteor hook, less penetration on long distance, so that's why you want the close. And then you could it looks a lot, those 2 jigs look similar when the skirt's on, but the fact that you can see it without is just straight.
Yep. More so for flipping. That jig for just pitching, not for casting. It's made just to pitch out there 20, 30 feet, straight into a brush pile, straight in, straight back out, whatever it may be. And that's why there's so many different ones. People don't think about, well, a jig is a jig. Well, no, it's technically not.
How big do you feel like rattles are? I feel like when I was like a kid, like 18, 19, 20, like the whole purpose of a jig was to have rattles in it. Central Illinois, black and blue jig, shake that sucker like crazy, put the rattles in. But now over the last 10 years, I feel like jigs without rattles are by far more popular than rattling jigs. Is that something that you can see in the stats as well?
I'm exactly the same as you. I used to always have rattles in my jig.
Like I wouldn't throw a jig without a rattle.
But, something I've been thinking about lately is, and I don't know if it's just me and fishing. I don't know if it's just me and fishing these different tournament trails or if this is actually true, but it just seems like to me that the water's not as dirty as it used to be. Like in years past, like whenever we were where I was 10, 11, 12 years old, I remember from, late January all the way through early May, it was always dirty, especially that March, April time frame. I mean, it was black and blue all the way. That was what you threw, was black and blue. But it seems like to me recently over the past 5 years, and like I said, it might just be
location, time of the
year that we're fishing and stuff. But man, it seems like I rarely throw black and blue anymore because the water's clean, or cleaner.
I think I have maybe 3 black and blue jigs in the boat right now. 3. Yeah. That's it.
Yeah.
If I had to go with one, I've gotten hooked on the finesse football. There's a couple different brands that make them. Omega makes a good one, but that 1/2 ounce finesse football, I skip that. I put that in the brush piles. I work that on rocks. You can fish it like a shaky head. You can put it on 18-pound test and power fish it. You can put it on 12 and feather it. I feel like that's like such a versatile jig. And then you can also really dictate the fall and bulk of it by what trailer you put on it. I think that's an underrated jig.
Yeah. I personally, I just like heavier. I like that 5/8. I like the 5/8. I like the fast fall. And it's the same way, like, I can change the trailer and slow it down a little bit. But if I want to keep it fast, I can really get a reaction bite out of it.
All right. We're going to take our first break of the show. When we come back, I want to dive into kind of your overall impressions of the 2023 season. And then are you willing to talk about what your plans are for 2024?
Yeah.
All right. We'll talk about that. Taylor Watkins, 3-time NPFL champ and owner of Omega Custom Tackle. It is BTL on a Tuesday, and we'll be back right after this.
The new Puma STS has been redesigned from the ground up. With the angler, design, function, and performance in mind, nothing on this new offering was compromised, and the only thing carried over from the previous version is the name. Based on the Soft Touch series hull that started with the flagship Jaguar, this new model is nimble and performs incredibly well at all speeds with either a 250 or 300 horsepower engine. Featuring a new 96-inch wide-body footprint, this hull measures out at 20 foot 7 inches in length. Industry-leading design coupled with tournament-winning performance. The Puma STS from Basscat. Feel the rush.
Everything you need, one legendary brand. Taiwan on Strike King.
All right, guys, if you're a construction worker, soccer dad, soccer mom, you want to be outdoors, you've seen the Reaper. This right here is the zip-up full Reaper, but it's windproof, folks, windproof. And it actually has the mast built in. It's behind me. I mean, if you can look good, feel good, and stay warm, you better check it out. It's the zip-up Reaper. That's right, windproof.
Elite Series Pro Daryl Gleason here. My Pro Guide batteries keep me going on those long tournament days and long practice days. Always plenty of juice, never fail. The best part about Pro Guide batteries, it's the people behind the company. They have over 40 years experience in the battery business, keeping all of us fishermen out on the water longer, catching more fish. Check them out at ProGuideBatteries.com.
What's up, Bass Talk Live fans? Brandon Polnick here. And ever since I won a couple Bassmaster Elite Series events on X-Zone Lures, I've been getting a bunch of questions of what makes them so special and different. And really, the truth is, it's in the details. The little details, things like no cheap fillers in their plastic. That gives you more lifelike action, more realistic and vibrant colors. But don't just take my word for it. Go to www.xzonelures.com and check them out for yourself.
Welcome back, BTL on a Tuesday, talking with Taylor Watkins. Before we get into the second half of the show, I do want to throw something up. There's a bunch of guys on now, and then if you're listening to the replay, look, I even came up with I didn't put a fancy banner on that, but my title sponsor for the Open's Best on Tour, running a angler performance questionnaire, conducting a survey to better understand how anglers perform on the water. It takes 1 minute. The link is in the bio, the YouTube Bass Talk Live bio. I've just filled it out right before the show to make sure I wasn't getting you guys into something crazy. Super easy. They're trying to get a better understanding of some of the habits of anglers on the water. Do me a favor. If you're a listener of BTL, if you are watching this, take a minute, click on that link, fill that survey out. Greatly appreciate it for me and the folks over at Best on Tour. We talk about title sponsors and the importance of title sponsors and being able to do and fish. Without Best on Tour, I'd be fishing the BFLs. So, I mean, that's what it comes down to. So if you support BTL, if you like the show, what's going on here, please go fill that survey out. Takes 1 minute to do. All right, Taylor. It was not a great year on the opens for you.
No, it was brutal.
And you were one of the guys that I had highlighted beforehand. Obviously, we talked about the 3 NPFL victories. And one of the guys that I looked around and like, damn, this guy is just really consistent, knows how to win. I don't care whether it's a club tournament or an NPFL event. If you know how to win, you know how to win. It can happen once to anybody. Twice, you start turning your head. 3 times, you're like, all right, this guy knows how to win. And it just seemed like it was hard to get, like you mentioned, the whole year. But the other thing about this year is it seemed like it was over before it even started. Like, got behind the 8 ball and there was 0% chance to catch up. It was insane how good the top quarter caught him.
Yeah. And that's, like I was saying earlier, I can't judge my whole year off of how this year went, because you can say it however you want. Once you win a couple of tournaments, man, you get the fire lit under you to win. And I found myself doing that. I did it at Watts Bar. I missed a check by 8 ounces at Watts Bar because I caught a couple of good fish, early, and I was like, I'm going to win, and I did that on day 1 and day 2. If I would have just settled into an area and caught a couple more fish, I actually probably would have been in the top 10, but it is what it is. You're home lake and you feel like, hey, I got a 4-pounder and a 3-pounder. If I go catch 2 more 3-pounders, and a keeper, we're going to be in, and I would go run big fish stuff, and it just didn't pan out. But it was also, like you're saying, if you weren't on top of it right off the bat, I mean, even during the tournaments, it seemed like it was kind of hard to get something else going. And especially for me, I'm not going to pull in on somebody that, like, you follow Oklahoma, everybody was catching them down that bank. Like,
oh God, that was a disaster.
I refused to fish that thing, and I got my butt kicked, like, it's like,
that was just an absolute disaster.
So, it is what it is. I learned a lot. I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about live scoping. I learned a lot about a lot of things this year. And you asked earlier, do you think it transpires into, other tournaments? Well, we're going to find out, So
you take another crack at it, or?
I think I'm going to fish NPF. I got to, man. I know that the Opens changed their pay scale and all that stuff, but and I haven't really dug into it, like really put side by side. But I mean, you take 9 tournaments and how far driving wise all of those tournaments are. I would say you're going to end up spending just about the same amount of money as going and fishing the NPFL, and the amount of winnings at NPFL is substantially higher, that are available. And I mean, two of the NPFL tournaments, I won't even have to buy a license for. I've already got it. So, I mean,
wow,
that leaves me with 4 tournaments that I got to really travel to.
Have they announced what the payout for the NPFL is going to be in 2024?
It's going to be $100,000 to win. And then, I don't know. I think I got an email last night about it. I haven't sat down and looked.
In your opinion, you think that field is going to be the fullest that it has ever been with everything that's happening in the industry?
I think so. And I think it's going to be the toughest that it's ever been too. I think we're going to have a lot of heavy hitters that are going to show up on that list.
Yeah, I mean, we see what Patrick Walters has done over there with the 3 victories as well, but I think it'll be interesting to see if any BPT anglers take their talents to the NPFL, any perennial open guys take their talents to the NPFL. I haven't looked to see if there's any overlaps, but typically there is a overlap or two just because of the fact that there's really only about 35 weeks of fishable weekends in the season, and you have between Toyotas, Opens, Pro Circuits, Elite Series, and BPTs, you're going to have some overlaps in there. But they did come out with the schedule. I don't think I've mentioned that on the show, and it is an interesting schedule. You mentioned Logan Martin, the first stop, Lake Hartwell, then Pickwick, Saginaw Bay, the St. Johns River, and then a to be announced stop 6. But Pickwick and Pickwick and Logan Martin?
Yeah, that's, Pickwick's probably 3 hours from me, and Logan Martin's 3.5, 2. And, like I grew up fishing Logan Martin, and I grew up fishing the Tennessee River. So,
yeah.
I mean, those two are, I'm not saying that I'm going to win. I'm not saying that I'm even going to cut a check, but nevertheless, I'm comfortable on those bodies of water. Saginaw Bay, I did pretty well up there wherever I fished with NPFL the year before last. And, Florida in the fall, I had a pretty good event there.
Yeah, and South Carolina's not that far.
No, South Carolina's 5 hours.
Yeah.
4 hours, 5 hours.
And what's this, St. Johns River, 10?
Yeah. What is St. John's closer than Harris? That was like 9 to Harris. So
yeah, I think it's about that same. Yeah, that you can't argue with that schedule, Taylor.
No,
not $100,000.
Yeah, for me, I'm located in East Tennessee, which is probably the most centrally located spot that you can get on the map for bass fishing.
Mm-hmm.
But, I know there's some guys that are west of here that are not happy about it or whatever. But here's the thing. Maybe you should have jumped on the NPFL last year where they had 3 events in Texas, or 2 events in Texas and 1 in Oklahoma. So, you got to give some, take some. Now, I did just complain about it earlier, but, it was it is what it is, how it worked out.
Well, the Opens, you got a bunch of people that are loving it, especially in the Midwest, because they're like, holy cow, we finally can live in Wisconsin, Minnesota, Missouri, jump up, jump down. Yeah, you've got to go out to South Carolina twice and Florida once. But those guys had been driving 15 hours to everything. Now they've got Leech Lake, the Mississippi River, and St. Clair, and you follow Oklahoma. So the half of the schedule is kind of right there in that Midwest line. So for a guy like me in Oklahoma, I'm like, yeah, I like it. It's a lot less driving for me. I got 45 minutes. Those other ones are 10 hours. They're all kind of ... I can practice in between as I go between them. And then, yeah, it sucks that I have to make 3, but it was like 6 cross-country trips this past year. So it's actually less driving for a guy like me, but for a guy like you, that's a lot more driving.
Yeah. And it works out that way, So, if maybe that guy decides to fish the Opens this year, maybe next year is for NPFL for him, and we've got decisions. We've got, there's open spots, and, you make whatever decision you think is best for you at the time. And we can still all be friends,
Yeah. What is it about the TVA fisheries? I feel like if you get it, you get it. And if you don't, it's really hard to figure that out for a guy who pretty much learned in Central Illinois and the Ozarks. Is that fair, or is it easier than I'm making it out to be?
I don't know. There was some things at the Ozarks that I kind of related back to the Tennessee River.
Really?
Just strictly because of the gizzards, and following the gizzards in the fall. And
okay.
But I think the biggest difference is the current and generation. Once you put the gizzards and the bait together, coming from the Midwest over here to the Tennessee River, and you put the current together with it, and you understand that, it's game over.
So the current positions the gizzards so you know where to go based on what the generation is, or based on what the flow is. You like, okay, when this happens, this is where the bait stacks up. When this happens, this is what the bait does.
Yeah. And it's not even, sometimes it's not even, summertime, obviously we all know what they do here in the summer, but it's usually like a steady flow. But in the springtime, you may get some big rains and some super heavy flow, then understanding where to kind of get off and what to do is kind of the puzzle piece that a lot of guys miss.
But I mean, you've mentioned bait several times. Is that even important in the spring then, the bait, or is it to get away from the current in the spring?
Well, see, the thing is you're prodding me, Matt.
I'm just asking questions.
Sorry.
It's just a podcast, man.
No, you're good. So one tournament in specific that I can really point out if somebody wants to learn is go back to the Bassmasters Classic on Fort Loudon whenever Ott Defoe won. There was tons of current that year, and Ott Defoe was fishing the main river, but there was either an island head above him or some type of feature that kicked that current just a little bit, where either he got a back current flowing back up river, or he was just outside of the current just a little bit, where he was still getting a little bit of it, but it wasn't super hard.
Okay.
And so things like that, and understanding when they are happening, that's what really makes a good Tennessee River angler.
And I feel like a lot of that is time on the water. Like you can give guys waypoints, you can lead the horse to water, but until you're out there and actually see and read, because I've done it. I mean, it's really hard to read and see when you're not used to it. Not only just to figure out what's going on with the app and all that, and then you can kind of know that there's current, but that's a really hands-on way to actually learn. There's no way you can learn that over the internet.
No, absolutely not.
It's one of the few things. I mean, there's a bunch of different techniques, but there's a lot of stuff you can learn through YouTube videos and through talking to guys. I think TVA and current driven fisheries like that, you have to set eyes on, you have to be on the water. You have to figure that out in order to really understand it.
And both of those that you just named, Logan Martin and Pickwick, are both going to be very current dependent.
The only time I've ever felt comfortable it was on Neely Henry.
Yeah.
And I got it. Like it made sense to me. It was the only time I've been on one of those fisheries where it made sense to me. And I caught the crap out of them, but I knew I'd like roll up and I'd be driving and I'd be like, that stretch of riprap is going to have a spot on it. And I'd go and crank it and catch a spot on it. And I would be like, we need to be at this part of the lake at this time based on I don't know why, but for that tournament a couple years ago, I got it.
I think Neely is a smaller lake. Like
that's probably why, because you could see the changes quickly.
Yep, that's exactly it.
Because you could be in a part of the lake where it should, and I'd be like, oh, it hasn't gotten here yet, right? Yep. Like it hasn't.
And it's easy to see. You can just pull up to a dock post and see it. Where, Gunnersville, Chickamauga's pretty good. It's a little narrower, kind of smaller, but Gunnersville, Pickwick, Wheeler. I mean, you're just out there in the vast. You're just you can't even tell unless you really know what you're looking for and can feel what the boat's doing. That's one big thing, is feeling what the boat's trying to do. Are you turned? Is the wind blowing out of the south and the current is pushing you against the wind, or and learning all of those things.
Do you fish the dams a lot? That's the other thing, like the Pickwick Dam or all that. Like that is intimidating. It seems like the easiest thing to do. Hey, run to the dam and fish the current below the dam. It doesn't matter which one you pick. When you actually do that, if you haven't done that and you don't really have dams like that to fish at Oklahoma, that's probably one of the most intimidating things you can do. And they all have them in Tennessee and Alabama.
Yeah, I used to spend more time behind them than I have in probably the past 4 years, but yeah, it's definitely that's a big deal around here on Coosa River, Tennessee River, and I don't know. It seems to be more of a springtime type deal too. I don't know what it is, but more summertime on Tennessee River. The ledges start playing more so than the ledges and the grass start playing more so behind the dams.
Which to me seems opposite. Like you wouldn't want the fish in the spring. I mean, are they sitting there feeding up for the spawn to try to get healthy? And that's where the biggest population of bait is, that they have to work the least to get, and then they go find their slack water to spawn in.
Very positioned. So more predictable, I would say, is the biggest thing. Yeah.
What's the best dam on the TVA system?
Oh,
Like if you had one day to fish a dam on all of the lakes, just one day for just pure fun factor. Like if you just wanted to go get your string stretch, not even in a tournament, just to catch the biggest, gnarliest group of all sorts of different species, what dam are you spending a day below?
There's going to be some people that get mad at me, but it's going to have to be behind Chickamauga Dam on Nickajack.
Really?
Yeah. Giant smallmouth. Giants.
Huh.
I don't know. I mean, there's good ones, dude. There is.
Yeah.
Behind Guntersville Dam's great. Behind, on Pickwick at McFarland is great. What's the other one? I mean, they're all really good, but behind Chickamauga on Nickajack's pretty good. I've heard of some like 8-pound smallmouth back there.
Good Lord. Yeah, that would be fun. But you have to feel, I mean, just because you can get back there, that's that whole seam thing. I remember watching that Elite series when that water was up, remember? And Kennedy was behind there and Martin and all those guys. That was chaos.
Alabama River. That was Alabama River.
No, there's one on Pickwick, wasn't there?
Oh, they've had them on Pickwick too.
Yeah, that one where the water came up like 6 foot overnight.
Yeah, you're
just catching them on that big blade.
Yeah.
Below McFarland.
Yep.
That was Western.
Yeah. That place gets wild. It is. That's intimidating, man. That current ripping, and you're looking up at the face of that dam and knowing that there's billions of gallons of water above you, and it's an eerie feeling whenever you start thinking about it. You just gotta kind of put your head down and go with it. But
like Watts Bar, it was dead slick and they weren't even pulling anything, and I'm like going around the dam because I mean I'm sure all 180 boats checked it out and they still caught them on it. And you could literally go right up to it and just look over.
Yeah.
You're just like, damn, that's a long way down.
Hope they don't open this gate.
Yeah, it's weird. And then some of them, being from Oklahoma, I'm always like, well, how close can you get? You have to wear your life jacket. But to me, it's amazing how you can just go right up to them. No one gives a crap.
No, you just get up there and bump against it. Parallel down the side of it. Yeah. Oh, I know.
That's wild stuff.
So what's your plans? Are you
No, I signed up for another year Pain and Eggers. I haven't registered yet. The early registration codes went out. It's a week. I really like what Bass did. They sent out the questionnaire, and I would love to see some of the answers on that questionnaire, because there's one thing, you'll never make 180 guys happy ever in anything. And then you especially throw in lots of money and tournament fishing. I'd like to read some of those responses, but I thought for their first year, they were dealing with 100 more guys than they thought. Hank said in the last one he was hoping for 100 guys to do the EQs in the first year. They did 176. I have no idea this year. I've heard there's going to be more. I've heard there's going to be less. Not a substantial amount less, but I like what they did by adding some spots to the payout. I mean, you know how it is after 1 year. It's not easy. At least for me, I'm a grinder, and there has been multiple events in the opens where I felt like I fished well enough to get paid. I'm like, dude, I beat 80% of the field. I had above average days, both days. I did what I needed to do, and I was, that pound out. So now they add a little bit to 45th. I'd like to have seen them go to 50, just because I'm really good at finishing in 47th, 48th, and 49th. But that 45th, and then I also like that they added the payouts, that 13th through 30th gets $5,000. And that way you're actually, this sounds bad, but you're actually breaking even with that.
Yeah.
Which is big.
So what do you got to do different next year to qualify than you did this year?
This is, I got to put myself around bigger fish, which is weird. So you strike me more as a power guy, not a finesse guy, not a drop shot, Ned, shaky head type guy. I've done this whole thing for the last 5 years on the finesse stuff, and every year I've had the bites to be either in the top 3 or the top 6 or to make it. This year, you look at the instant feedback. I mean, I get chirped on it. Oh, drop shot again, 12 pounds again. I put that stuff down with few exceptions. I'd say a spinning rod was my predominant rod in 2 of the 8 tournaments. And I caught smaller fish. I never had opportunities for big fish. I mean, I only lost like 2 fish that were critical like the entire year outside of Wheeler, which was just a debacle where I lost like every fish over 3 pounds that bit on a spinning rod. But it was crazy the amount of cranking, punching, flipping, and winding that I did where I was like, this gives me the best shot at 4-pounders, and I catch 15 to 16 inchers.
Yeah, I really struggled this year too at catching quality. I've always been the type of guy that I've never been scared to go fish for 6 bites, and it just doesn't bother me. I can go and fish an 8-hour day, 10-hour day for, 6 to 8 bites, and I'm okay with it. But this year it just, Watts bar, that's what I went and did. And I only caught 3 the first day and 4 the second day. I couldn't generate the bites. I couldn't generate the amount of bites that I needed to, and I really didn't lose them. I think I really lost 1 fish this year. That was at Toledo Bend. That really kind of cost me anything.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I think one thing that I would do different was whenever I would live scope and stuff, I was throwing a drop shot. I was throwing a Ned rig. Maybe I stick more with my power type stuff.
I noticed that this year
in the wild live scoping, like pitching my jig to isolated fish or whatever it may be. And I'm going to try that more. I really, I spent some time with the Demiki and all that stuff, and I just can't get consistent enough with it. I can't, like, I'll have a good day or I'll have a good hour or 2, and then it's like nothing. I'll throw it 500 of them and none of them will bite. And then all of a sudden it'll just be bam, 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 but I can't get it consistent enough. And I think maybe one thing that I need to do is maybe, and I did a good job of that in the NPFL. I did a good job of keeping my style, but incorporating live scope into it a little bit. And I've really got to start building on that more. And I really should have leaned on it more in the opens. I think I kind of leaned on my bank beating skills a little too much, and it would be great. I feel like that I won practice on day 1 and 2 of practice several times, and then I don't know if it was that I slacked off because I felt like I had something figured out, and then everything changed, or if it was the fish completely changed. I think it was a little bit of both. I kind of always felt like during practice I had those first 2 or 3 days of practice in my back pocket, and then by the time tournament started, that all went away.
Have you ever had the burning desire to just show up for the tournament with 0 practice and treat it like the first couple of days of practice? Because I think that's universal. Guys pull up and be like, dude, you should have seen it. Just treat it like the first day of practice. We have to be doing something different on those first couple of days when we show up. It's not like the fish go, oh, it's tournament day.
No, I don't think that they go, oh, it's tournament day. I think that they're fresh. I mean, just like Watts Bar, there hadn't been anybody on the wake really, other than a few locals for,
I guess,
30 days.
Because unless you hate yourself, you don't fish that lake for fun.
I guess I hate myself sometimes. But yeah, I mean, and then after, I mean, dude, essentially in the opens, you're having a 7-day or 6-day 225 boat tournament. I mean, essentially that's what you're having, and you start your tournament on day 6. Or
it's wild.
And it just, there's so much pressure, man. And me personally, I was not used to that. I was used to NPFL, and we only had 110 anglers, and I would say 85 of those anglers shook off fish, 85% of the time, 75% of the time, and going to, I mean, dude, you think about it, you got 225 anglers out there, and 225 anglers set the hook on 5 fish on the first day of practice. So 225.
And you
times
really
five.
have 350 with the co-anglers, and you know dang good and well every co-angler gives it the freaking beans every fish during practice unless they're with a buddy.
Yeah. So I mean, you're talking.
Now I want to do the math. Let's see the math on this.
So dude, just say 200. 200 times 5.
It's 1,000.
Okay. Times. Let's
Let's
6.
say times 3, because then some will start shaking them off later in practice.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Yeah.
Okay, that's just 3,000 fish on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday.
Yeah. So 3,000 fish have already been caught.
And then the next 2 days we'll say 1,500 fish. No,
Yeah,
1,000 fish.
You know dang good and well on those first 2 days of practice that there's more than 5 getting caught.
Yeah, you're right. Let's do 1,000. Let's do 5 a day for Saturday, Sunday, Monday for 5 days. Yeah, that's 5,000. That's 5,000 bites on a fishery.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Before you ever even start. So, I mean,
That's a lot of bites.
That's a lot of sore mouthed fish for sure. I mean, at Watts Bar, there might not be 5,000 bass in there. I don't know. I'm just kidding.
They're definitely not eating each other as skinny as they are.
Yeah, they're not eating anything.
Did that
else.
surprise you how that got won?
No, not really.
That's a thing there.
I mean, fishing brush piles with a jig. I mean, essentially, is that not what he was doing?
Yeah, a little bit. It was more like there's grass too. I just thought that the bait related fish would play more.
Yeah, I really tried to find something weird and dumb, and I thought I'd found it, but I don't know. It didn't work. So.
I think your coolest win has to be the Cumberland win.
Dude, it was awesome. That was a lot of fun.
I think I had you on BTL. Did I have you on BTL after that one?
I think so. Yeah.
It was, because that was the one that day was canceled. It went from like beautiful to like, what were the conditions on that again? It was something insane.
The water rose 16 feet in 48 hours. And whenever we started that morning, I think it was like 28 degrees, something like that. And the high was 40, 38, something like that. But it was awesome, man. That was one of the most fun days of fishing that I've ever had in my life. I don't know. That and the last day at Kissimmee. The last day at Kissimmee was unbelievable. But
that was a 1-day shootout, wasn't it, at Cumberland?
Yeah.
And you went to the back of a creek that had clear water or something, and everyone else turned around because it was chocolate milk because it had come up 20 feet.
Yeah.
And so all the fish were back there.
Yeah. There was one little area that everybody had gotten bit during practice. And so I started right there. Well, there was, of course, 10, 12 boats in there, all milling around. And, good old me, I was like, I'm not fishing with all these boats. I'm going to go somewhere else. And so I just went further back in the creek. And further I went back in the creek, the clearer it got and the warmer it got. And I found one little bluff. There was one little bluff section, probably 30 yards long, that had giants on it. And they were eating a 3/4 ounce spinnerbait. And it was unbelievable.
What'd you have, like mid-20s?
23 on Cumberland.
That's like a 30-pound sack. That's like a 30-pound sack on Grand.
Yeah, exactly. There. I had one guy message me and said that he had caught more than 23 pounds on Cumberland one time. But
largemouth, right?
Yeah, all largemouth. Yeah.
Went back and got paid $50,000.
Yeah, that was a cool feeling. That was awesome. I need to get back there. I got to get back to that feeling. The opens grind is a lot tougher feeling than that feeling riding back with $50,000 in a live well.
I tell you what, you learn a lot about yourself in the opens. Like, unless you're one of the guys that rolls in and breezes through it in 9 and goes, I don't know what these guys are talking about, but there's all sorts of, you learn about relationships, financial, travel, self-confidence, self-doubt, getting out of jams, ride the highs, getting over the lows. Like, it's it's a lesson in, I mean, yeah, you learn a lot about yourself fishing a year of that.
Definitely. And I hope, I mean, I'm going to try and take a positive from it, and hopefully it helps me down the road. It's, maybe I get into a situation, maybe, a smaller situation where I am having to fish around a few more boats, and I can pull out some of those things that I learned and put them to use. I don't know. We'll see. I hope.
Awesome. Anything else you want to get in here, Taylor?
Yeah, I'm working with this new company, Sniper Marine, and if y'all don't mind, go check them out. Sniper Marine.
That's a cool logo.
Yeah.
What is it? I'll pull it up.
SniperMarine.com.
What are they?
They make a live scope pole. So, dude, we got to get you a live scope pole for crappie fishing.
No, I can't do the pole thing, man.
Dude, you can do this pole. I'm telling you.
What? Okay, sell me on is it a turret?
No, it's manual, but you twist the handle side to side like this instead of spinning it around. So
wait, do that again for me 1 second.
So you twist it like a motorcycle handle, like this.
Okay.
Instead of moving it like this. So you get 360-degree turn, and the cord runs through the pipe.
Oh, that's what you were doing on Lake of the Ozarks.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that's where I was like, Upshaw, go look at Watkins' Instagram.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, that's interesting. You're sitting in the driver's seat. You had this thing attached to the side of the boat, and you were scoping under all the docks to find the brush.
Yep.
So you can use it up front. It doesn't mess with your. How is it better than a foot control where it's on the shaft?
Well, you're spot walking wherever you're crappie fishing, are you not? Most of the time.
Yeah, for most of the summer. In the fall, you chase them down because those suckers like to float away. But yeah, no, you're right. If you can spot lock and then.
Yep. And okay, the other thing is do you usually fish with a partner, like a buddy? You got a buddy that goes with you?
Yeah.
So y'all are fighting over the trolling motor, right? So you just take it and you put it over the side, and he's got his own live scope.
He's got two. So you got two.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. So you're going to have two screens on the front. Yeah.
There's some guys at Grand that have been doing that for years, and they beat everyone in the team stuff because one guy uses a scope
on the foot pedal.
Guy, and the other guy has his own scope, so they get around where these fish are chasing bait, and one guy can be over here doing his thing, and the other guy's over here doing his thing, and over the course of the day, it means 2 extra 5-pounders.
Yep.
When they're on it.
Yep. Yeah, it's legit. They've done a really good job, man. It's that pole, and it's not for everybody, but your crappie guys, if you're fishing out of a kayak, this is the jam for a kayak. So we've got a Scout model that is a little short guy, which is what I had at my console. And dude, if you're fishing in a kayak, that thing is amazing.
These are the over the side mounts. Is that what you're talking about? Where you can just.
Yeah. Or we got trolling motor attachments too. So if you want to put it on your trolling motor, you can. We can do all of them Garmin. The only thing we can't do is like a Trinova or anything like that. The wet trick ones that go down. But any of them pull up with a cord we can attach to the trolling motor.
And then you just hook it into your unit.
Yep. You just plug it right in.
So how long does that take? Like 2 minutes to put on the side?
Oh, not even. You just leave that black base plate on there and it sits into the cup. So you just take your pole and
okay, I got you. So you have this bracket on the side of your boat, and then you can just drop the pole down, hook up the unit, and you're good to go.
Well, the unit's already hooked up. All you do is just whenever you get to wherever you're fishing at, just drop it in and you're scoping. You're done.
Ah, I see.
Yeah. So I leave mine. I've got my Scout model beside me, and I just run it down beside my seat there, right beside me. And I've got the bracket already there and everything. And I run dual Garmin's. So I've actually just click and turn on this live scope, pick it up, plop it in. And then just while I'm idling, I look at live scope while I'm idling.
It's next level stuff.
It's good, man. But crappie fishing, dude, it's amazing. Even chasing fish, if you like chasing fish with live scope, once you take it off of the foot pedal, like, because then you can just go whatever direction you want to go. You know, if you want to turn right and go right, well, you can scope to the left. You know, like, but it's not you don't have to use both feet. You can just twist with your wrist. You know, so it's good.
Innovations and how quickly all this is evolving is pretty impressive in the industry.
Yeah, these guys have been working on this for about 2 years now, but it's time now that, you know, they hired me and brought me on for doing sales and going to dealers and stuff. So we're ready to. We just launched our dealer program last week. So if there's any dealers out there that are listening and interested in it, you know, hit me up. I'd love to talk to you about it.
All right, that's good stuff. Anything else?
I'm good, man. Thank you. Thank you.
I appreciate it. A full hour and 16 minutes with Taylor Watkins. Best of luck. Sounds like on the NPFL next year.
That's right. We'll try and go chase down Patrick Walters, I guess.
What? One more win and you're the all-time winningest. You're tied right now.
Yeah, well, I was until 3 days ago.
Yeah.
And it's still about 3 days ago. So
yeah, that guy's pretty dang good.
He's real good. I mean, dude, if I get to go compete against Patrick, that's awesome. You know, I mean, for me to go out and beat Patrick day in and day out is probably not very likely, you know, but I mean, beating 98%, 95% of all the elite guys.
If you're dueling it out with him, like I said, there's always, when I first got into it, there were always those couple guys in Oklahoma that I'd be like, if I can hang within a pound of this guy, I don't care where he finished. He's consistent. He catches them. He beats everybody. I know I'm doing something right.
Yeah, that's right. So,
all right, we'll go get number 4 next year. Thank you very much for the time, Taylor Watkins.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Matt. See you.
See ya. All right, we're going to take our final break of the show. When we come back, we're going to do a little fashion show. We're going to go through some of the BTL apparel. I have to make some of the final decisions before the Christmas drop. And then I'll also run over. Today's the last day to get your pumpkin carving in for the pumpkin carving contest. We have gotten a plethora of submissions, some really good pumpkins, and we'll talk about how you can enter that. Win a complete set of DD22s and Norman Fat Boys. We'll have 2 winners, but BTL on a Tuesday. We'll be back right after this.
Are you looking to install your own fishing electronics? The solution is the Bass Tank Power Harness. It takes the guesswork out of installation. No more voltage issues or interference. Designed by an engineer so that you can get professional results right there in your own garage. Installation done right with the help of the Bass Tank Power Harness. You can feel confident knowing that your installation was done right. The Bass Tank Power Harness. Give us a call or order yours today at thebasstank.com.
Get the best patterns backed by tournament data. Start by finding the best 10% of your lake. Know exactly what to look for and what to throw. After that, just put them in the boat. Try the Deep Dive app today.
Get that beast right there.
Have you considered purchasing new electronics for your rig? The type of mounts you choose to protect your investment should be part of the decision-making process. No matter if you prefer 1, 2, or 3 graphs up front, Beatdown Outdoors has a solution for you. Adjustable, versatile, rigid, and made in the USA. What's your ultimate electronics setup? Check out the full selection of Beatdown Outdoors products by visiting beatdownoutdoors.com.
Having confidence in your tackle while on the water is one of the main things to success, in my opinion. In the last couple of years with Denali, I've had just that. From anything from spinning rods, casting rods, tungsten products, even now to casting and spinning reels, I have the confidence to go out there and get the job done and know that all my equipment is going to handle it and do it just the way I want it. The thing about Denali is you've got great quality products at a great price point, so make sure you check them out.
Shoreline Boat and RV, dock rash, storm damage, collision repair, that deep scratch or gouge from trying to access that secret creek. Shoreline Boat and RV can get your prized possession back in mint condition and looking good on the water, fast. All repairs are done in-house, so they're able to get your boat or RV back to brand new, quickly. All Shoreline's work comes with a rock-solid warranty. Find out more at shorelineboatandrv.com. Kansas City, Austin, and Tulsa.
I'm the kind of guy that never leaves the house without a pocket knife. And Gamakatsu's come out with the EDC series of knives. EDC stands for everyday carry, so whether you're on the water or off, you can always have it with you. The best thing about it to me is that assisted open feature. With this D2 blade, you've got it right here at your fingertips. So if you can't find your scissors, you need to cut a knot, you need to cut your braid, you've always got it. Make sure you check it out. Never leave home without your Gamakatsu EDC knife.
Born in Japan, using technology, innovation, and precision, Sunline produces the widest selection of fishing lines at the most technologically advanced line factory in the world. Manufactured at the strictest tolerances to produce victories at the highest levels of tournament bass fishing. From household names like Christie, Swindle, and Cruz, to young guns like Cook, Logan, New, and Welcher, they all trust Sunline to take them to the top of the leaderboard. Choose the line that will give you the strength to guarantee your confidence. Sunline.
All right, welcome back. BTL on a Tuesday. I do want to remind everybody there is the BTL. This was kind of spur of the moment. Happened on day 4 with Frank Scalish a couple weeks ago. If you're carving pumpkins for holiday, it is Halloween today, October 31st. If you have a fishing, BTL, anything related pumpkin carving contest, Frank wanted to get into the holiday spirit, and so did I. So you can send that pumpkin into Matt at BassZone, BassZone.com by tomorrow, which would be November 1st. And then on Thursday, Frank is going to judge it based on creativity, pumpkin carving skills, how it relates to bass fishing, BTL, if it's funny, whatever. And the winner will get a full set of DD22s, including Frank's new custom colors in that. And then the honorable mentioner second place gets a set of Norman Fat Boys, courtesy of Frank Scalish. A lot of good submissions already that I've seen on both Instagram. Then I've had a lot of submissions emailed to me as well. You can do it one of two ways. You can either tag at Matt Pangrac, Pangrac, and Frank Scalish, tag both of us on Instagram, or email a picture of the pumpkin to matt@basso.com. Also, reminder to everybody from the start of the show, folks, there is a link in the bio, a link in the description of this show on YouTube. Best on Tours conducting a survey to better understand how anglers perform on the water. It's 10 simple questions just about some of the habits that you have on the water, what you eat, what you drink, how you stay happy and healthy on the water. No catches, no nothing here. They're just looking to get some information as far as that's concerned for some surveys, in-house stuff. Greatly appreciate it if you go spend a minute out of your life and fill out that survey. Here's the other thing. I'm going to give a sneak peek here. Let's see if I can pull this up. There we go. Sneak peek here. I've been working with Catherine over at ATS Printing. As people say, I had a lot of questions about. I actually have had a lot of questions about when the BTL apparel is going to drop again. The store's been closed for about 6 months. I think we had a little sneak peek on some of Frank's stuff. This is not finalized, but if anything tickles your fancy, let me know if there's something in the collection missing. But spent a lot of time to work on that. Obviously, we got the standard BTL stuff. Now, these are going to be, if you bought one of the Bass Fishing Saves Lives St. Jude fundraiser t-shirts, these are kind of going to be that same material. So a soft tee back with the standard BTL hoodies, BTL long sleeves. Going to go some BTL hats. These are not the patch hats. These are actually embroidered in, reduced cost because we got some cool hats down further. They talked me into doing a jumping fish. There's some stuff that we're not going to do there. That is what I'm looking forward to. Hat wise, that's going to be a patch there, and then also a hoodie. Maybe put that one on the front. But what I am excited about is the Frank Scalish Signature Series stuff. That's a fish that he actually drew. And we put a largemouth, a smallmouth, and a spot. They're all three of them are on the same one, but I've been working on some stuff, and then also a Frank hat. So yeah, I'm looking at doing a quarter zip. I know I'm going to do a couple of quarter zips for me because I'm a big quarter zip guy. A beanie. Yes, Sean, that would be good. I think we had a beanie. I think we can throw that back into the rotation. but I guess they don't sell incredibly well. If thanks, Rich, for doing the survey, much appreciated. If you guys would be interested in a high quality kind of like a little dress, like quarter zip to wear during the fall or winter, let me know, and I will. I'll see if I can get that in the drop as well. So Taylor Watkins, very honest interview. Looking forward to see what he does. Obviously, a very talented angler. Has some things a little bit of switch up tomorrow. Stay tuned to the BTL website to have that show booked. But then Frank is back on Thursday, and then I'm headed to Texas to do a podcast that I've been looking forward to shooting for a number of months. That will come out on a different podcast channel. That should be a fun one. All right, that's all we got. Happy Halloween, everybody. Get those pumpkins in to Matt at basszone.com or tag on Instagram. That's it. We'll see you tomorrow.